Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for the 362nd video in the poetry discussion playlist, but also the 5th video in a rapidly growing playlist for Pablo Neruda here on this channel. The poem in question today is known as Walking Around. This was translated by Robert Bly, and it reads as such. It just so happens I am sick of being a man. And it happens that I walk into tailor shops and movie houses, dried up, waterproof, like a swan made of felt, steering my way in a water of wombs and ashes. The smell of barber shops makes me break into hoarse sobs. The only thing I want is to lie still like stones or wool. The only thing I want is to see no more stores, no gardens, no more goods, no spectacles, no elevators. It so happens I am sick of my feet, and my nails, and my hair, and my shadow. It so happens I am sick of being a man. Still, it would be marvelous to terrify a law clerk with a cut lily, or kill a nun with a blow on the ear. It would be great to go through the streets with a green knife letting out yells until I died of the cold. I don't want to go on being a root in the dark, insecure, stretched out, shivering with sleep, going on down into the moist guts of the earth, taking in and thinking, eating every day. I don't want so much misery. I don't want to go on as a root and a tomb, alone under the ground, a warehouse with corpses, half frozen, dying of grief. That's why, Monday, when it sees me coming, with my convict face blazed up like gasoline, and it howls on its way like a wounded wheel, and leaves tracks of warm blood leading toward the night, and it pushes me into certain corners, into some moist houses, into hospitals where the bones fly out the window, into shoe shops that smell like vinegar, and certain streets hideous as cracks in the skin. There are sulfur-colored birds and hideous intestines hanging over the doors of houses that I hate, and there are false teeth forgotten in a coffee pot. There are mirrors that ought to have wept from shame and terror. There are umbrellas everywhere, and venoms, and umbilical cords. I stroll along serenely with my eyes, my shoes, my rage, forgetting everything. I walk by, going through office buildings and orthopedic shops, and courtyards with washing hanging from the line, underwear, towels, and shirts from which slow, dirty tears are falling. Now, the first line is, I am tired of being a man, right? Oh, I went too far. It just so happens I am tired of being a man. But I don't think this part of things here is too terribly important to the actual message of the poem. I don't think it's a man. I think this is part of maybe what is being lost in translation between the poems as it was written and as it was translated. I don't think that anything here is too terribly connected to masculinity. I think that all of these things are just, well, sure, there are some sort of gendered, tailor shops, barber shops, but those are masculine versions of things that women have too. So I don't think anything here is about the masculine part of being a man. Just like this word here in this quote is not necessarily about men. The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation, said by Henry David Thoreau. I think that more than that, what this poem is about is being tired of life. Waking up, going about, knowing that you have to do the same stuff tomorrow. Gotta wake up, gotta brush your teeth, take your shower, fix your hair, gotta go out the door, gotta go into the world. Things are gonna get sucky, things are gonna get messy, things are gonna get turned around. That, I think, is what this poem is about. But there is a little respite here, right? There is a little respite where he talks about, still it would be marvelous to terrify a law clerk with a cut lily, or kill a nun with a blow on the ear. It would be great to go through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until I died of the cold. Now, sounds wild, fantastical, right? Sounds needlessly violent. Or is it just the opposite of his daily life? Unpredictable as opposed to just predictable. I've dealt with no shortage of homeless folks in my life, and there seems to be a breaking point with them where, and I don't mean them as if homeless folks are a different breed. No, I think this is more terrifying because this same line is alive in you and I. But you could have all sorts of nice encounters until one day when all of a sudden they're pointing at you and screaming that they're going to kill you for no reason. You haven't done anything. But, wouldn't it be nice to terrify a law clerk with a lily? Wouldn't it be nice to run through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until you die of the cold? I mean, this sounds like that. Go through the streets with a green knife, letting out yells until I died of the cold. Died of the cold is dying of exposure. Dying of exposure is something that normally only happens in civilization to homeless folks, folks without shelter. So it sounds to me that our speaker here is tired of life, is leading a life of quiet desperation, having fantasies of letting it all go. This violence wrapped up in this one little stanza here. I would just like to be this ultra violent one time for one day. Kill one nun. Who's going to miss her? It's a nun. Nobody misses them, right? They're interchangeable. Like mimes. Mimes, nuns, they're cousins. Part of me wonders if this line of thought is an invention of modern civilization. I wonder if there is something about the necessity of foraging for food, if there is something to the necessity of building a fire in the winter. I wonder if there is something of a necessity, the necessity of just making sure you have the food that puts all of this quiet desperation to waste. It seems that the better life gets, the more complaints we have. You go back 200 years, the 1800s, the 1820s, how many people were complaining about the small things that we complain? How many people in 1824 were complaining about their Wi-Fi speed? Right? So the nicer things get, the more complaints we have, the further we are removed from the meaning of the small things in life, like making sure we are fed. How much of that, it seems to me, that we are, as humans, beasts of burden. We have to have that toil in our lives. And when we don't have it, we'll make it up. We don't have it in the world we live in today. We're not forced outside in the 100-degree weather. We're not forced outside in the negative 30-degree weather. We just had that in Kansas City. Negative 28. I shouldn't exaggerate. And when we don't have that fret, when we don't have those threats, when we don't have a pressing need, there is something about our nature that still has anxiety in it, that still says something somewhere must not be right. We've all had, you've known complaints about work guy, right? You've known that guy that, God, it's your weekend. Are you sure you want to complain about things that happened on Monday during your work week? Oh, man, I really don't care about your boss. And sometimes you even know complains about work guy at work. And that's just the worst. They want to complain about everything instead of just getting the job done. Because they have to have something to worry about. They have to have somewhere to put the anxiety that is ever present in their head. It must manifest into something tangible. I have this world of chaos in my brain. I need to take that, latch it on to something at work, shake it up, and present it like a snow globe, as though this is all that is wrong with the world. But I don't think I do not believe that quality is like being tall or being short or going bald. I think that is very much reversible. You know, you read a poem like this and you have to wonder how long this speaker has been struggling with these ideas of, man, life kind of sucks. Do you think there was time to be depressed while tilling the fields? I read a book called Lincoln's Melancholy. And part of that book was talking about sort of the zeitgeist of, those 1860s, 1870s, 1880s, how this idea of the morose was sort of in vogue. You got Edgar Allan Poe, shortly thereafter, and all of these things, and that idea of the morose, that idea of the macabre, the memento mori as just a part of life, was sort of in the zeitgeist. It was sort of the way to be, just slightly depressive all the time. And you look around and you think, yeah, but golly, those folks had terrible living conditions. You're talking about early factories. You're talking about um, early traces of industrial revolution. You're talking about people dying in the fields. You're talking about all of these things. And it was sort of the thing to be slightly morose all the time. And this is coming, sort of on the heels of an Enlightenment type period. But if you take a step back and you really think about it, yeah, those machines freed up big parts of the day. Those machines made sure that more people had actual clothing. Those machines made sure that more people were actually fed. The process of canning, mass canning, made sure that great swaths of civilization were able to eat when otherwise food would not be available. So it might be that idea of the morose became popularized because some of the tension out of life was slowly being relieved. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button, because literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel. And hey, I hope to have you back for the next one.